Well, well, you seem wonderful.
I think she's wonderful. I've decided.
We've decided ahead of time.
Yes.
Man, what a show today. You know, because we can't keep anything in the straight line, can we? So we decide we're going to go with, you know, really cool first-time author, essayist, and, you know, guys who make air quality sniffing drones.
Did we decide that? Because today was you.
We did. You find nuns, and I find air quality sniffers. Yeah, and a psychologist. And I find adult film stars.
Yes.
And drone sniffers.
And yesterday, the Loaded Questions creator and the Lego Series Play people, that was me. But it's like, it's very interesting to see which episodes come together, you know, yours versus mine, if you will.
Backpack show. You imagine if we ever had a real conversation that like went, you know,
I can't imagine us having a real conversation. This is
couple sentences. Hey, it's my dad. It's Melissa's mom. Everybody's here. We're here at the Backpack Show.
The family show, the Backpack Show, where we bring you insights from unusual sources that you need to succeed.
I love when you say that. There's my mom, Diane. So mom, Becky Faliveno is the guest mom, so you can mom it up if you want to.
Yes.
We have two totally disparate guests because that's what we do here. That's the alchemy. Melissa Faliveno wrote a book and just launched it called Tomboyland. It's a collection of essays. It goes everywhere, and we're going to dig into that. And we have Omid and Ameer from Scentroid, like scent like your nose, because they have a drone that they deploy. And the drone's not the thing, it's just the tool that does air quality sniffing all around cities to let us know faster that the world is going to end or whatnot. I'm pretty sure that bad boy's not roaming around. Scott Woodard went over to LinkedIn.
Hello.
Oh, this is a strange world. And you know why he's doing it?
Is different.
Well, he's much more pro. He looks much more pro.
I like
you know why Coach went over to LinkedIn though? Because he wants to kind of give us the LinkedIn support. I think that's what it is.
That's sweet.
Don't know.
Love it.
So I think, you know, it's hard. We always have to say like 5 seconds before the show starts, who's the first guest. And I think we're going to go with Melissa because I just have so many questions I have to ask about Tomboyland. So that's what we got to do. Gentlemen, ladies, people who identify as neither or both, Melissa Faliveno, so glad to see you.
So glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So you've been doing like book launches and stuff, only, you know, all in the land of quarantine. You've been doing a lot more digital video than you probably ever had in your career before this moment. What's that been like, launching a book in the time of COVID?
It's been strange. You know, I have very little to compare it to. So, I mean, other than other people's book launches, which set a bar. But I feel like we're in a bit of a brave new world here. And so it has been weird. It's been a lot of Zoom. It's been a lot of crowdcast, looking out into, you know, an empty void, and seeing people showing up in the chat box, which is nice. So there are like advantages and disadvantages. I don't get to be in a room with people and hug them and tell them I love them and like I'm sorry for disappearing for the past 10 years while I worked on this book. But I get to see everybody like chatting in a chat box, and that's great. And the 2 launch events I did one in New York and one in Madison, Wisconsin, my 2 hometowns, and with 2 bookstores here in my neighborhoods. And it was almost like a tour, but no.
but not like a tour. Except not at all.
You don't get the cheese and crackers. You don't get the...
Well, you know, so here's the thing. I drove out to Wisconsin. And so I took this road trip, and I found out that I can drive 10 hours and only stop once. And ended up in Wisconsin and did like a socially distant book signing in the bookstore, room of one's own in Madison. So like went into this empty cavernous store and wore a mask and sat alone in a room and signed books. And then saw my parents in Mount Horeb and did my launch there. So I did have some cheese, and I got some of my favorite Wisconsin beer to consume while I was launching my book. So it almost felt, you know.
That's very nice. We had Carrie Arsenault on earlier this week.
Oh,
She
yeah.
wrote a book about a mill town in Maine, and she's doing like really small book events, like by design. So like local bookstores and things. So you've got, socially distanced and all. So just something to put in the Rolodex for later. Remember Rolodexes?
Oh, yeah.
Ask Carrie Arsenault
yeah.
about that.
I had one at my desk at work for many years.
Tomboyland is a book loaded full of essays. Let me just put the little graphic up here. By the way, hi Leslie. Very good to see you. I judge books by their cover, and I will admit that when I kind of like was roaming around what to read next, I was like, "This is a striking cover. I shall read this." And it was like Terminator. You know how he's like scanning for his response or whatever. I'm like, Tomboyland essays. Okay, this is gonna, And so I come into expecting a certain thing. I expected Tomboyland to be the lead story. And it wasn't, and story's the wrong term, but essays are also stories. So you start
These are.
Thanks.
So if you're thinking about like a school theme, that's not what these are.
Yeah. I did have a conversation. Someone said, "What's an essay?" And I was like, "Oh, well, you remember like when you had to write essays for school? Imagine like nothing like that. It's like school lunch compared to 5-star,
The opposite of that, yes.
Yeah. Narrative nonfiction, you probably, and I can tell you probably read a lot of the same kinds of books that I've read, the melancholy kind of stuff. I have a sense that I would go, "Oh yeah," on your bookshelf a lot of times. But
you could look around.
Here. Yeah, zoom in.
I'm seeing them. Why Finger of God before Tomboyland? When I say this, Tomboyland is a whole, exploration of things like gender and all that. Finger of God, I guess maybe the answer you're going to say is because this is sort of an explanation of family. Why Finger of God first, then Tomboyland?
So, what's interesting is that when I was putting the book together, The Finger of God was not originally the first essay, but my editor very wisely suggested that we make it first. And I kind of pushed back against that at first. And then I kind of realized, after getting over my pride, which is, all a part of the process of being an author, it turns out, that she was right. And I started thinking about it. And I love that it's first now, because I think of this story, which is about an F5 tornado that destroyed this small town next to mine when I was 1 year old in rural Wisconsin, as sort of this like origin story of my life in a way. It introduces the landscape that much of this book takes place in. It introduces family. It introduces sort of the culture that I came from. But it's also about my obsession with the weather and a desperate crush I had on a meteorologist, which I think really says a lot about me.
Right.
We had one of those on this week too. So
he's still in my heart. And yeah, it talks about religion, kind of growing up religious and sort of losing that sort of relationship with faith and religion and building a new one, and destruction and grief and loss. And these themes come around throughout the book, I think. I mean, I hope. So I think it sets the stage in a way. That was my hope. In any case,
I wasn't expecting that when I started reading it. I knew what the themes of the book were, and when I opened it, I was sort of like, I'm not going to use the word triggered, but we had a tornado in our town in March, and so school had been closed since then, even before the pandemic stuff. And I was like, wow, this is not where my head was when I started this, but it was very powerful. I think
it ripped the middle school off the ground where she was and all that.
Yeah, the middle school and elementary school. So it was crazy. But I just want to welcome our community. They're saying good morning to the Scentroid team. I can't pronounce it. Bon matin.
Bon matin.
Bon matin.
Bon matin. Oh, Len Joy. He's a fantastic author. You should
Thriller and
meet Melissa.
Author, Len Joy meets Melissa.
Len Joy. Len is another great author. I loved his book. They're like sports fiction and thriller type books.
Jack's trying to woo you. So he said, "Damn," and I passed on a career in meteorology.
Oh, too late now.
Too late.
Jack's always a lover. So
everyone's really encouraging.
Listen, I wanted to be a storm chaser for a long time. So I still sort of think that there's a future in that for me.
Storm chasing, danger.
We just asked that question to the meteorologist. We're like, "What do you think of storm chasers?" And she was like, "No." Was like, dangerous and it's bad and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, that's why people do it. But
well, she's not the meteorologist for you. We'll just say that.
That's right.
Keep looking.
These aren't the meteorologists you're looking for. I have a couple of questions. One really quick one is I went to Oshkosh for an event for like a day or so. Is that where your other place is? Is that kind of near? You said sort of outside of Madison, and I'm not map knowledgeable about.
Oshkosh is a little northwest, I believe. I always actually get my geography confused. It's either northeast or northwest.
Whatever you say, I'm going to believe you. So
okay, well I said both. So
okay, it's northwest.
Northeast. Madison is south central, like right in the smack dab of south central Wisconsin, and then where I grew up, Mount Horeb, is about 30 miles west of that. So it's
okay.
Right on the border of Dane County, and it's not far from the border of Illinois.
See, so I've never been there, nowhere near there, but you painted such a vivid picture of it, like with the carved trolls on every other block and stuff. Like I got a real sense of the character of the place.
It's worth a visit if you are into things like trolls, carved beer. I mean, and who isn't really?
And curd.
It's a problem. My family's spoken to me about it, about my obsession.
Chip Griffin makes the joke that you can only make 1,000,000 times in Oshkosh. Oshkosh bagosh.
Yep.
So listen, the book is Tomboyland because look, Lenjoy showed up late. The book is Tomboyland. This is Melissa. This is a series of essays and the collection of them and sort of what you use to hang narratives on. The fact that the weather story is weather and family. The fact that Tomboyland, it's going in this one direction that I expect. And then I'm like, we're getting into some stuff here. I have quoted, I don't know how many times already, that little bite that you said, and some of the Virginia Woolf stuff that you quote clearly, you're a wolf freak. But there's so much there. And so I have a rough question, well, an easy question, I guess maybe for you. Who's supposed to read this book? And if you say everyone, I'm disconnecting your video.
Okay, well, I won't say that. I think I've gotten this question a couple of times since the book has come out, and it's an interesting one. I think that, like, had you asked me this while I was writing the book, I would have said people who are really interested in essays, and then it sort of changed to like, people who are growing up in more rural spaces where they don't have the same kind of access that people on the coast have and people in big cities have, and that might feel a little less alone in their experiences. Something that I don't think that I had much when I was a kid. And then also there's this element where like, I hope that people read it that don't share those experiences too, and might learn something, might, I don't know, work toward a better understanding of some, identities and experiences. So not everyone, but, a broad collection of people, I hope, will read this.
I'm going to give you my answer. I'm going to give you my answer to your question. How's that? My read on it is a couple things. One is that, so I read somewhere fairly recently, and I'm still arguing so deeply inside my head with this thing, was just like every story is basically either we go on a journey or a stranger comes to town. And I've heard that, and I was like, well, you forgot Fish Out of Water, because that's a pretty big one.
Yes.
And because Fish Out of Water is like a massive body of work, Freaky Friday, all those kinds of things. So I'm not supposed, Encino
Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah, it's all that. So they got that wrong already. So let's agree that this is already a flawed premise. Fair. But yours to me is sort of like a city mouse born in the country, and who had to kind of really keep really doing the math between country mouse, city mouse, country mouse, city mouse, because you were not good enough for the city in some ways, and you were absolutely not made to be in the country. And that's everything about you. It's the gender essay. It's everything about every piece of this, and that's what I think the answer is. But I'm just
two hometowns, Chris. She's got two hometowns, and they're
yes,
I love that. Of her.
Yeah, I feel like that is spot on. It's kind of the way that I was trying to bill it before, people tell you have to have your elevator pitch, right, to talk about your book. And I'm terrible at this, even though I worked in publishing for like 15 years. I'm terrible when it comes to my own work. But I was like, it's about spaces in between. And, it was very vague about that, but I kind of mean it, it's like, living in this sort of in-between space called the Midwest, which is this great amorphous, vast stretch of land that people call the flyover states. But then sort of living in between identities and class distinctions and, in this sort of liminal space of body and feeling very temporal, like everything is temporary. We're always moving. We're always leaving. We're always arriving. So I think that's a perfect assessment, Chris. Thank you.
I'm here for you.
There'll be no living with him after this, so thank you for that. Carol says people who can relate and people who can't immediately relate. That's who she thinks the book.
Perfect. Yes.
That's a useful thing too. So my other thought I had, especially when what you just read back on that, like if my eyes glazed, I was deep in it. Because I was thinking about, I have this sort of thing I'm thinking about a lot right now that I haven't been able to put words to, and I'm kind of painting a little bit at a time on it, which is that we're in, you're on video more than you've ever been in your whole life right now. Like you're being faced with, like, you must present an avatar of Melissa now that just wasn't the thing before. And even in the essay Tomboyland, it comes up a few different times, that sort of who do I have to be? A lot of times your answer is kind of like, I don't want to be any one thing. I want to be a lot of things. I want to be a smear. I think that people are sort of being forced to like crystallize their avatar. And in a lot of ways, the essence of this book, Tomboyland, is maybe don't crystallize that avatar. Maybe you can survive in that space in between all of it, which is, I think, I was going to say what turns you on, but I sure don't mean in a sexual way. I think it's like a
totally, yes,
the crust of your pizza is that you love that idea that I don't have to be one thing ever again.
Yes, absolutely, without question. It's sort of a claiming of like the ability to, or like liberating yourself from the need to claim one identity. And, it makes sense that we all feel like we have to, we're clawing to claim an identity. We're told in like every aspect of life in the digital age that we have to have a brand and we have to do exactly like you said, have an avatar for ourselves that like be one thing. And, in order to belong and, or make a name for ourselves or whatever. And that, nobody is one thing and we all contain multitudes, of course. And like being sort of the process of writing this book for me was, I guess kind of being more okay with that and coming to terms with that in my own life and writing through the things that have gotten me there. And also saying aloud, like, it's still a process and I'm still figuring it out and we're all still figuring it out and we'll never figure it out. And like life is a big question. And so the best we can do is keep asking the question and keep looking at it and keep facing it.
I can see immediately why Chris loved you. And I'm so grateful that he introduced me to you, because Chris loves things sort of like undefined and messy. And realistically, that's what we're all like undefined.
Totally. Embrace the indefinite.
Love is a very, very, no, hang on. Carrie, I just mean like a banner thing. So that's true. And love is not the wrong word either, because it was like electrical feeling. I was like, this is a good book. You've got, and it's what you hope for as an author, right? Authorship is such a lonely bullshit thing. And we are authors and essayists and writers for all over the web. As I looked at your stupid bio,
Would you stop it? You're wonderful, informative, very helpful, well-written,
very
bio.
Long, very, superfluous bio.
But you must get in fights everywhere too. Other people's definition of feminism, other people's definition of non-binary, other people's definition of anything that you want to throw any kind of general label. You must get labeled so often. It makes you insane. And at least you got to put a stake in the ground, and it's a 300+ word stake. By the way, look at this link right here, cbrogan.me/Tomboyland. Buy this book.
Please.
And if you hate it, I'll give you all the money back.
Case-sensitive link.
Got it.
And you will not hate the book. You will love the book because it is rich and nuanced and very interesting.
I'm so glad. I'm gonna take your use of the word electric and like add it to a blurb somewhere.
Yeah.
You can also play the electric slide now, completely free.
Perfect. Great.
And we're going to send you off in a second. But
everybody's loving this.
Yeah. Carol asked one question, and I hope the answer is no, but it'll probably be yes. Do you journal?
I do, not as much as I should, because I tell my students that they should be journaling every day. And I make this an imperative. I'm like, you have to do this every day. And I have not been. I think since I put the book out, it's kind of like crashed. But I was in a process where I was doing it every day, and, not necessarily like sitting down and having these long, journaling sessions, but like writing down a passage in a book that I read, or, kind of keeping a commonplace book, like, keeping track of the things that I'm interested in, or that I observe that are, fascinating to me, or that's something that I want to come back to, which I encourage for everybody to do. Yes. The commonplace book is like a lost art, but a really important one, I think, especially
journaling. Although commonplace book, you put that term on it, I'm like, oh, damn it. She's right.
Kara's joining us from Scotland. Kara is an amazing sketch artist. So if you ever need any sketch art, look her up. She usually sketches Fife, but I think she could be flexible.
She could make a distinction. So go to cbrogan.me/Tomboyland. Do buy this book. I'll give you the money back if you don't like it. You are not going to ask for your money back.
Stop it! Don't even put that on the table, because they're going
Melissa,
to like it.
if you can stick it out, hang out with us, and we're going to do a little panel thing we usually do at the end after we learn some smelly facts. Perfect. You are wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I will stick around.
Stick around. All right, we got to do some sponsor stuff. I think we handled all the names and all that kind of thing. What you got?
How about the community had thoughts about Melissa? I just want to share them. So first of all, marketers are always telling us to define our niche and be laser focused on our brand, but that's not the reality, right? So the face we put forward on LinkedIn and elsewhere, surprisingly, is not the complete picture. And more importantly, they're all very sanitized. So I'm always encouraging people to actually show themselves. And I know, Chris, you do this all the time too, but it's like, be you.
Right.
Let people see you so that your audience can find you. Because if you're just like every other sanitized LinkedIn profile, nobody's going to know what you're really about. So
if I had to live and die on her words, I could, I guess. But the fact that I know she's a black cat lover, the fact that I know that she's got really cool ink, most all of it outlined as far as I could tell, none of it like, super colory, you learn a lot of things about a person. Sir Mix-a-Lot, who's on next week, he doesn't just like big butts. He likes.
Does he like people to call him Sir Mix-a-Lot, or does he prefer they use his actual name?
I just call him Mix because that's what Angel did, and
because
just sort of.
You're close. I get it.
No, it's what Angel did. I thought that's what I'm supposed to do. I don't know.
Oh, Kara.
Child of mine identifies as non-binary. Sorry, I missed it. Yeah, I mean that's not like that is absolutely not what. It's not a gender studies kind of a scenario, but you've got some stuff for your child to want to read. There's some really great stories.
And Coach says, well put.
Oh, because you're well put. Hey, listen, let's do sponsor stuff. You can go to cbrogan.me/StreamYard and make an amazing show, world class, better than this show. Just cbrogan.me/StreamYard. It is how we make this show look so good. It makes it feel so good. I got to tell you a story. I was on another show yesterday, and he was using a bunch of other products, and I had to go to Skype, do this thing, do this other thing, get in there, and I had to watch him like size the window to put me in the right spot. Like literally have to drag it exactly so. And on the one hand, it means you've got a lot more creativity. You can put stuff where you want it. On the other hand, I can push a button and Melissa's face pops up. Boop, there's Melissa. Got it. We have guys in a meeting room we're going to talk to today. Why? Because that's where they had to be, right? So you can go to cbrogan.me/StreamYard and do that. Now, author friends, because we have some author friends. And Melissa's got a lot of author friends she works with and a lot of aspiring writers. We are sponsored. And listen, all right, we're sponsored by PubSite. pub-site.com. Authors can come and get a site put up for them super, super fast. It's site hosting. They can even make it for you if you want. It's $20 a month, and it is built for authors. The themes and everything, the design, everything is made for authors. And I have to brag, Carrie, before you say the things you like to say about PubSite. We just did a very quick 2-month sponsorship deal with Fazia Burke, who's our beloved from FSB Associates, who's a publishing publicist company for authors. 25 years in business. This is their other project that they do kind of also to support their authors. We signed a 2-month contract like 14 or so days ago or something, or 10 days ago or whatever it was. And she just messaged back and said, never mind, can we make it 6 months instead? Because she loves us, because we love her. So Carrie, I think this site costs a lot, and I think you have to put a lot of money up front to get on it if you're an author. How much is it?
You do not. There's a 14-day free trial, but after that, it's just $19.99 a month. So it's super reasonable. But the reason that I would use pub-site.com is because the people who created it know exactly what authors need to promote their book, so that it will be ready to be effective as a book promotion tool.
It is a fine product and absolutely done by people that we trust and believe in. So, although she blew us off today. She
did not. She could be listening. You don't know.
FSB Associates Twitter is here. So, could be her. Could be anyone.
Oh, see, she does love us.
Could be someone named Reginald that we don't even know.
She was there. You didn't even hear her come in. She's so classy.
My friend Mike McCallan is here over on LinkedIn. Hey, Mike. See, he even looks professional over there.
It's LinkedIn. John Harrison says, hooray for author friends. See, you don't see much kissing on LinkedIn, like in the avatars.
That is very true.
As a rule. Everyone's
All right.
saying hi.
Listen, how do you know the air around you is safe? How do you trust the air? And how come we don't have real-time knowledge, not alone, collected data about the air?
My mom smoked in the car with the windows off. So don't ask me.
you know what your air quality was. We talked to Carrie Arsenal about Milltown, and the thing we didn't really talk too super deeply about in her book, which I'm sure she was like grumpy about, was that it's all about how like we ruined the Androscoggin River up in Maine with mills, and how so many towns have ruined their rivers, and how these things are not going to bounce back very well. And as much as you want to say nice about them, there's massive death in it. Well, so we've got guys on today, Omid and Ameer, who are talking about this with our air. And when you see those pictures coming out of San Francisco and Oregon and all those kinds of places with the fire air, and it's all bright orange, and now they're showing Blade Runner 2049 beside it and saying, this is going to be all the time, you big idiots. And Mike's out there, I think by Oakland, right, Mike? He says he's walking his dog right now and the air is bad. We're going to talk to Omid and Ameer and the gang at Scentroid to talk a little bit. So little note up front, the boys are in a meeting room kind of a space, so it's going to sound a little weird. You might have to mess with your earphones right now. So Omid, Ameer, Scentroid, hello. How the heck are you fellas?
Hello. Very well. How are you?
Good. So just for people doing math at home, Omid's on the right, Ameer's on the left, and the drone's in the middle. That's your DR2000 or something?
Yes, that's what it's called. This is like a flying lab. We call it DR2000. It's like a successor of our DR1000 product that we had before.
Got it. Fauzia, sorry, really quickly. Fazia. I know. I always say Fauzia. I swear I'm secretly right. cbrogan.me/BP live puts you right to today's one. So I had asked the question, was it the drone first or the air quality first? And you smartly said it was the air quality first. Did you try this with other kinds of tech first, like just sticking a bunch of sensors all over the place?
So originally we have another product, which is a handheld air quality monitor. Okay. And we thought, someone from our company, I think our CEO had an idea, why don't we try mounting this to a drone so that we're able to survey a large landscape faster and get to more hard to reach places. So that's where the idea came from.
Nice. What I probably know the answer to this, and Carrie, I'm sorry, I'll let you have some questions. I probably know the answer to this, but is the higher you go and sort of the different heights and whatever, that affects the sampling. Is that accurate? And that's why you have to do it that way?
Exactly. So there's actually a whole three-dimensional aspect to this air quality measurements. So especially on days that are hotter and different temperatures or different layers, as you go higher, for example, it gets colder. And we see and study how pollutions travel around us, right? So if it's colder, the wind is bringing the pollution up, but then as you go toward the city, the pollution actually comes back down as if it was raining pollution on you. What this allows us to do is basically we can fly around and then figure out what direction these pollutants are traveling.
Considering this is kind of a business show that just talks about really simple things and not sciencey things, is there a real simple way to talk about what you do with that data once you get it?
Yeah, so we basically, we can tell relative areas where there are air quality is worse. So we have the air quality health index, which is published publicly, but those are fixed to stations, right? But with this, we can actually fly around and create a map, like a heat map of the city. So if you go on Google Maps, for example, you can have an overlay, basically colorful graph showing which area is currently polluted. So gives us a real-time kind of info of what's going around in the city.
What's an application for that? Oh, sorry. There's a question from the audience. Mike McCallan asked a question. Where are you based right now?
Where are we?
We're based. We're just outside of Toronto, Ontario, in Canada.
Right, where the air quality is flawless because you're Canada and you keep the world safe. But bring those babies west is what Mike's asking. He lives outside of Oakland, California, near San Francisco, and it's a little different.
Found us, by the way.
Oh, I'm so glad. Hi, Fazia.
She's my favorite.
Yeah, so it's important. My dad actually points out, my dad, Stephen Brogan, air quality is really important to us in Las Vegas because they have dust pollution problems locally and smoke and dust from wildfires in California. So with breathing allergies, they need to know. Are these the kinds of things you're thinking of? And like ultimately, what comes after this, Omid? Do I look down at my Apple Watch and go, oh, I probably shouldn't jog in this neighborhood today? Is that where we're going?
That's precisely where we're headed towards, and that's what we envision to have the capability so that at individual levels, people can have access to this kind of information. Because if you imagine you're going down the street and there's like a bunch of buses and trucks going by, that's the air you're breathing, right? You're not breathing the air that is the station is reporting to you, right? So we really need to have that kind of resolution to be able to be more aware of these things. Mentioned the wildfire, so that's one of our applications actually, which is very interesting. Because let's say you have a massive wildfire and you want to focus the rescue team to go fight it up where it's most effective, right? So it's really difficult to do it otherwise, other than just like a drone flying around seeing where the most of the burning is happening and all of that. So it allows us to do a lot of great things like that, yeah.
So can we see it? Like now I want to make you big again.
Oh
so
yeah, for sure. So this is it. It's like a small box. So he's blinking right now, trying to sniff the air. But we basically have this sniffing probe, as you can see. So this mounts on the drone itself. So this flies around the city and the air flows in through here. And then the whole thing gets analyzed through here. So inside
it looks very precarious, I'm going to be honest. So is that like sturdy?
It's like a theme on there. So we actually made it to be mounted on these kind of drones here. So this is one of the drones that we fly and test them out around here. So it actually mounts directly underneath over here.
Okay.
So this is how it would look like, and then this drone can fly up, and there's like a camera in front, so we can actually see where we're flying and what we're measuring.
So who's the customer for this? I mean, obviously there's lots of like B2B applications, but what about the people watching? I mean, we're all concerned about air quality, but would this be something that you could use like as a regular citizen where there's a wildfire?
Yeah, definitely. So previously we have like industrial partners who purchased this in like oil and gas industries and all. But with this drone, this is like a consumer grade drone that you can actually buy. So what we did, we now made it available so that people can just buy this and do it with themselves. So what you could do, for example, if you're like a farmer and you want to study the fumes that you're generating, the odors you're generating around, and you can actually do that and assess your own impacts and all that. So
it sounds very useful for people in the Midwest.
Definitely.
Where they grow food.
So two things. One, Mike McCallan asked a design question. Is there any way you can have your designers make it look like a big flying nose? That's tomorrow's meeting, Mike.
I expected you to be more serious with an avatar like that.
Oh, are you? Oh, wait till I tell you my favorite Mike McCallan story. But I have a serious question too, which is you mentioned about farmers and you mentioned a bunch of different applications. What does this smell for right now? And how do you tune it to smell for other things? Meaning, like, if I were a farmer, I want to know about methane output. If I'm a gas person, obviously I want to hear, smell natural gas leaks before I have to get another kind of a sensor. And I guess when Scentroid versus other kinds of sensors, I guess that's another question.
Right. So this box that you see here, we can fit up to 11 sensors in this. So depending on the application, if you're like measuring the wastewater treatment plant output or like a wildfire situation, we can configure the sensors to be most suitable for what you're measuring. So for example, for other measurements, we have like different sensors that we arrange into this, and then we come up with one number that indicates how odorous the air currently is. So it's very, yeah.
I heard you laugh. Stop it.
No,
about
because
how odorous your air is.
No, because Scentroid says we'll save the flying nose for the DR3000 over on YouTube. So another question about that whole concept, though, what is the tricky part of this? Meaning, like, for instance, that's a commercial drone. I could just buy that drone. Anybody could buy that drone. The DR2000 that hangs off of it is your piece. But, the sensors and stuff like that, I could get those and buy a bag of sensors. The sensors aren't the part. Is it the algorithm? Is it what you're doing with it? Is it like what you're doing with that data after? Is that the tricky part? Is that the part that no one's going to be able to figure out, which is why Scentroid wins in the long business run?
Right. So, yeah, it's a great question. So actually the tricky part is actually all of the above. So it starts all the way from the hardware, from sensors and how the electronics work out and try to like get measurements from the sensors. And then once after that, we also have algorithms that go over these sensors and kind of interpret the data, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like an all-in-one solution that we have the whole team here that works on it to make this whole product here.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. Omid, I have to break in and ask a question. Who's Mariam? Mariam Youseffi just came to visit, so I'm guessing a relative of one kind or another. Yes. Look how red he just got.
It's okay. It's a family show. Chris's parents are here. Melissa's mom swung by.
Melissa's mom is here. My mom and dad are here. It's a family show. Who knew? So that makes me very happy is the real answer to that question. How are, and you remember, we're not like some startup show, right? Like it's not, nobody cares about the answer to this but me. How are people, how are the pitches going? Because I feel like it's either going to be the people like really get what you're going for here, or they're just like, and then they smile politely and wander off.
It's kind of interesting because, yeah, that also happens. But sometimes we get ideas from our customers that we wouldn't think of ourselves. For example, there was a country in Europe that was using our drone, actually our older model, the DR1000, for they were going around checking which houses are burning something like burning plastics instead of wood. So they were checking which houses were emitting illegal fumes, and where their police force would come in and investigate.
See, that makes me think about how they burn trash inside tires in some countries. And it's
exactly.
Like super toxic.
Yeah, exactly. So that it's being used to kind of find out where that's happening and shutting it down, which is something we never would have thought of. So,
question from Boston: can this detect body sense?
You know, at first I get that could be a joke, but that's actually, look, you could use that for figuring out if there's trafficking going on, though. You could go through a whole bunch of containers in a shipping yard and find out bodies. That is it's a valid question.
Yeah, actually, that can be done. They use carbon dioxide monitors, and if they sense a large amount of carbon dioxide, there's probably someone breathing inside of there. So that's one application too.
Jack's asking which country, if you can say.
Can we say that? It's published on our site. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's Poland.
Yeah, it was in Poland. Yeah.
Oh, that would make sense. They're kind of progressive.
Why does that make sense? Stop it.
No, they're progressive. Okay. Poland. I'm thinking of the sort of military and law situation there. That would be a good one. So, and Scott actually ties yesterday's shows in today, and Mike says this is cool. So Kerry Arsenault's neighbors could have used Scentroid in their questions for paper mill emissions. Yeah, so you could use it to kind of. I just realized this could be also called like Snitchtroid.
Exactly.
That's interesting. Well, and then the thing about when you said gas and tires, places like Somalia use that for signaling against U.S. forces. So there's a military application because there besides bomb sniffing, which is kind of cool. There's a lot of things that you can start figuring out by plotting, those times. So there seems like there's a lot of applications. But I guess sort of my last question before we bring Melissa back in for a little bit of a panel is there, in regards to that, are there more ways that people can use it so that it becomes hard to try to market and talk about it? Do you know what I mean? Like, because it can do everything, is it harder to talk about it doing something?
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the challenge here. But we made it flexible so that we can have this work with many applications. So it really depends on the application. So that's all I can say.
Which your friends on YouTube are by. Stitchtroid, I like it. Can the sensor package be customized?
You have to make it look all beat up. Like it has stitches.
Stitches get stitches. So can the sensor package be customized per application is the question on the screen.
Yes, it can. So we have on our website, we have published a list of sensors that we have. So based on your application, you can select which sensors you want, or you can even ask us and we'll we'll give you an option of sensors that would work in your application. It's a little difficult to change the sensors once we've manufactured it and put them, installed them, but it is possible. So you can also purchase extra sensors and swap them into whatever application. If you're changing applications, you can swap them in.
Yeah, exactly. And everything runs on the same platform here. So for example, we have the drone and it sends the data to this tablet, which is like a basic tablet, and then it has a receiver in the back. And so it's very user friendly. We have an app here that everyone can basically just log in and just use it. It's pretty much all streamlined here. Yeah. And
it's a semi-hardened kind of tablet because it's going to be out there in those kinds of environments where people are going to smack it around. So you probably had to do a little for which kind of casing and whatnot would make it work best for that even.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna smack it around. Don't sniff my air.
Yeah, gotta be prepared.
Are you gadget guys who work on software, or are you software guys who have to use gadgets to make it work?
It's like back and forth, right?
Yeah, back and forth. Yeah,
all the time. Yeah.
That's the future. I'm sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought just because there's a lot to think about in there. But what are the backgrounds of your top team?
Backgrounds
like engineers.
I'm assuming professionally. Are you engineering guys or science guys?
Yeah. So we got electrical engineers. We have mechanical engineers. Yeah, software. Yeah. We have a team of software developers. Some embedded designers. Just cool. A lot of electronics. Yeah.
And I imagine something to do with oh my gosh, I was going to say fabrics, but I'm not saying the right word, but like materials designers. That's what I was trying to say. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, I know that you have thought a lot about air quality sniffing drones.
But your next essay collection will address that.
This is fascinating. I am so interested in this. This is very neat.
I saw your face kind of lighting up. By the way, LinkedIn user. That's a reasonable question. So Fauzia asked the question, isn't there a privacy? Ooh, sorry.
Stop touching
Isn't there
things.
privacy?
Stop
Where's my beads?
I have one job on this show, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to
Every
push
time
the button.
you quote that, it makes me so happy.
Fazia asks, isn't there a privacy issue here with air sniffing? See, Now I'm a lawyer, and I would say, so here's the thing, private property lines do go, theoretically, all the way up. So is there?
Yeah, so the thing is, there's two aspects to this. So first is about the air, right? So that's what we're breathing. I think that's what we share. I don't think there's a law on that yet restricting us what we can sniff or not. But the other thing is about the drone itself. So every location around the world has their own regulation on where you can fly a drone. And
Chris has lost a contact lens. I apologize.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a combination of things here. But yeah.
So I guess it partly depends on your purpose, right? Like you might need a warrant or something if you're specifically sniffing for criminal stuff, like you were talking about in Poland, but it's probably a little different if it's air quality, like for the public good. I would think there'd be a different set of regulations applying there that might let you fly over.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this is going to go out in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, let us know when you get in trouble. Figure it out.
Come back on the show and really fill us in. Melissa, I have the question for you.
These drones also scratch. Come on, Mike.
Just like an extendable hand.
Melissa, my question before scratch and sniff just became a thing. One of the questions I ask a lot of people is, what do you tell people on an airplane? Like back when we all did that. Hey, so what do you do? And I always just, try to not talk to them is what I do. But I'm going to ask all of you that question, but I'll start with you. Do you go into the fact that you write stuff, or like what do you hide and pretend?
Mostly I hide. Yeah, that's like my default. But this has changed in the past year because up until like 2019, I would have said I'm an editor because I worked as an editor for 15 years and that was my career. I was also trying to be a writer, but hadn't published a book yet. So I didn't feel like I could claim, writer or author or whatever. So now I'm trying to start to I'm towing into I'm testing it out, saying, oh, I'm a writer and just leaving it at that. But, I haven't been on an airplane in 18 years. So how long has it been?
Right. 84 years for me.
Yeah.
2000, years. I haven't been on a plane, but I'm also teaching now. So I guess I could say like, I'm a writer and a teacher. The thing that you're an editor is that, and I used to edit for a writing magazine. People would always say, "Oh, I'm a writer," and then they would all of their writing projects and like ask for my card and say, "Can I send you something?" Which of course I always said yes, but you
never read it.
Complicated.
Just say you're an accountant.
I might try that actually going forward.
They'll be like, "Oh."
That was the theme we got, is that if you say you're an accountant, people stop asking questions. So Ameer and Omid, the same question. Like, how far do you get into this when you're stuck on an airplane back when we all flew?
Depending, I guess depends on the trip. If I'm tired, I'd just say, I'm an accountant.
Yeah, see? Carol hides too. So this is a thing that people do.
Yeah, exactly.
Carol asked, what do you teach? But I'm guessing writing.
Yes, I do teach writing. I teach creative writing this semester. Actually, this year, I'm a visiting writer at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, although I'm here in Brooklyn, New York, teaching remotely because that's the world we live in. And I teach undergrads.
That's the best because you never know what they're going to say.
No, they're really interesting and smart. It's my first time teaching undergraduates. So, I previously taught graduate students who are very different and adults.
Yeah, because they're sort of conditioned to like say things that they expect will please you, but undergrads don't care.
No, very, very little filter.
I love it.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I like that all of our guests today don't live in absolutely stereotypical places for themselves to live. I'm glad that, author Melissa lives in Brooklyn, and that, super science tech nerd drone flying sniff guys live in Toronto, which is, the place where there's a startup every 34 seconds or whatever.
All of which you say lovingly and as a compliment. Jack says he's an international spy.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I think so. And then Mike says since he wrote his book, he only now says he's a writer. So once he tells him the name of the book, it either ends the conversation immediately or they have a great time.
Oh, I haven't had that chance yet to say like I'm an author, to a stranger, like, and this is my book. So maybe someday when we're in the world again, I'll try that out.
Just carry copies with you.
Well, you have a few thousand fewer strangers now. So.
That's true. Have you seen your book in the wild yet? Because that has to be a really exciting moment, like the first time you see somebody you don't know reading it.
Yes, it's been so awesome to see it on like Instagram and bookstore shelves, and then just in strangers' hands. They'll take a picture of it and post it on their Instagram feeds or on Twitter or whatever, and that's thrilling to me. I've also started getting emails through my website from strangers who read the book and just wanted to like say, "Hey, thanks, I read your books," and that's like the best thing ever.
I just realized that Omid and Ameer absolutely never want to have someone find their drone in the wild.
True.
That's not going to happen.
They'll alert the Polish authorities. Somebody's sniffing our air.
But listen, I do have to ask that question now, as it relates to the dumb joke about have you found your thing in the wild? Have you, that's an awful question to ask you. Have you lost a baby yet? Have you crashed something down into the water somewhere, like over by Pearson or the airline there, the little island? What has it been bad yet?
No.
No. Okay.
A drone for repair that was in just crazy condition. So we only assumed that they crashed the drone, but yeah.
Okay.
Well, we tried to fly over the Arquette residence, and that was a disaster.
What was that idea?
The Arquette residence.
So what answer you were expecting?
John asked a question. I can't tell if he was joking or not. What's wrong with carrying copies of your book in person?
I feel like he's not joking.
Yeah, I know. Don't be that guy.
Just like slide it, casually out of my backpack or something when I'm on.
You should read. This is the best book on that topic.
Yeah. Hey, what's that you're reading? Oh, this?
Something I picked up. Very good.
I'm so glad you asked.
I was just thinking, if you took the DR2000 home, you could just kind of bring it over to the kitchen and have it put alarm bells or something. You don't know it's being cooked
in your backpack, right?
Yeah. It does look like it would fit. So I mean, that's a serious question because we like to make the jokes, but an emergency response team could find some use for this device as well. Like you said, if you could smell CO2, you can go in and try to guess, where there might be some people under rubble and that kind of a thing. So that's an accurate thing too.
Yeah, for like a rescue team as well, right? If you're like under a fallen building and stuff, we can actually go around and see where the CO2 source is emitting from and all that. And you mentioned a great point. We also have a product that is for indoors. We can actually put inside your home and then kind of monitor how much your cooking is producing particulate matters and all of that. We all know kind of the indoor air quality is like much more important these days, especially that we're spending more time as well. Yeah.
I just thought about a really weird third world application. I had the chance to talk one time to Manoj Bhargava, the guy who founded 5 Hour Energy Drink, and he does all these things in places that he loves to talk kind of negatively about the fact that people don't spend any time developing for developing worlds. And he was talking about, for instance, kerosene cooking in all of these villages and how people don't realize that if you're closing in a closed, hot kerosene environment, maybe that's not good. I just realized that not a drone, you can't roll a drone into a hut, but like you said, the kind of portable sensor part of what you do. I mean, you can use it for education and be like, this is what you're breathing. It might be a challenge. So listen, we gotta move on because the show's over and I've got to do some things, and that means remind you some things. So cbrogan.me/StreamYard. That's how you can make your own show. You can interview all the drone people you want, smelly drones, and you can also interview authors filled with essays. You can also make your own website authors. So all of Melissa's students can go to pub-site.com because clearly, published and serious authors have a good site made, 14-day free trial of that. They also specifically sponsor Person of the Day. And so it's really important to stick out a person of the day. And it was really, really, really hard to determine who the person of the day would be. But it would be Mike McCallan. Scentroid could check people for body odor for high-class events or checking for perfumes for allergic people at conferences. And that idea has a really good smell to it. So, Mike, you're the person of the day, which means that entitles you to an apple just like the one in this picture if you go out and find an apple just like the one in that picture. You could totally do that if you want, completely free. I won't charge you.
I was once on an airplane next to somebody doing their nails. Can you not ever please do that?
And
I don't need a drone to tell me.
Toenails. Okay. All right.
Fazia Burke, sponsor of Person of the Day, says, hello, Mike.
And you two should know each other, Fazia, because when the world comes back open again, Mike is the kind of guy who actually helps events make really good events by doing the lighting and all the equipment and all the cool gear. Mike is the guy who makes events into important events that people remember. There you go.
How's he has an apple tree.
Oh, so, well, there you go.
Melissa, when the world is back open again and you can have events.
I can have my delayed book tour.
Yeah.
Mike.
Just like you can come here, see this drone fly.
Yeah, fling up to Toronto.
For sure.
Love that.
A few good places we could get a bite.
Get your drones, get your essays.
Essay about it.
First time I went to Toronto, by the way, was with my grandmother. We went to a restaurant there, and my Grammy